Hi everyone, welcome to the Highlights from Ukraine podcast, your daily audio summary of the latest news reported in the Ukrainian media. My name is Artem, and here is the news. For 562 days, Ukraine stands strong against the forces of the Russian invasion. At least one person killed and 72 wounded in the result of a Russian missile strike against the city of Kryvyi Rih, reports RBK Ukraine. The strike was carried out on the morning of 8th of September. The Russians hit the local police station. 35 people are in hospital, 3 of them in critical condition. Head of the local military administration Alexander Vilku informed that over 80 houses were damaged as well. According to the preliminary reports of the Air Force of Ukraine, the Russians struck Kryvyi Rih with an Iskander cruise missile. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Ukraine reacted to media reports about the negotiations between the UN and the Russian government about resuming the Black Sea Grain Initiative, reports European Pravda. The UN suggests Russia to renew the deal in exchange for sanctions concessions. According to the ministry spokesperson Oleg Nikolenko, easing of sanctions against Russia will lead to new blackmail by the Kremlin. He added that Ukraine is ready to continue the export of grain to worldwide markets, mainly to African and Asian countries, both within the framework of the Black Sea Grain Initiative and through alternative routes in the Black Sea and by land. Earlier, the German media outlet Bild reported that Antonio Guterres, the UN Secretary-General, is negotiating with Russia about resuming the grain deal. In exchange for this, Guterres promises Russia that some sanctions against Moscow will be eased. In his evening video address, President of Ukraine Volodymyr Zelenskyy said that currently we see a prolonged sanctions pause from Ukraine's partners, and Russia's overly active attempts to circumvent the sanctions. He stressed that it is crucial to respond to these attempts. Zelenskyy outlined 3 priorities: further sanctions against Russia's energy sector, real restrictions on the supply of chips and microelectronics, and further blocking of the Russian financial sector. The world sanctions offensive must resume, believes the head of state. We would really appreciate if you could recommend us to your friends and family, as well as share information on social media. This really helps more people to find out about the highlights from Ukraine and truth about Russia's invasion. President Volodymyr Zelenskyy has emphasized that the sooner Ukraine receives more powerful long-range weapons, the faster the pace of its counteroffensive will be, and the sooner it will liberate Ukrainian lands from Russian occupiers, reports Ukrainska Pravda. The president noted that he understands the people's desire to restore the territorial integrity of Ukraine as soon as possible, because ultimately peace in our country and throughout Europe and the world will only be achieved when Ukraine regains all its territories. At the same time, Zelenskyy noted that the war waged by Russia on the territory of Ukraine is complex and many processes have been slowing down. Zelenskyy stressed that Ukraine needs specific equipment, including modern fighter jets, to accelerate its counteroffensive. Quote, all processes are becoming more complicated and slower, from sanctions to the provision of weapons. When some partners say, so what about the counteroffensive, when will the next step be? My answer is that today our steps are probably faster than new sanctions packages, said the head of state. Zelenskyy expressed gratitude to all Ukrainian partners led by the United States who provide defense assistance. The first tank Leopard 1 tanks supplied by Denmark, Germany and the Netherlands have arrived in Ukraine, reports Ukrinform. According to the Danish armed forces, more tanks are on the way. Danish troops in Germany are training Ukrainian forces to operate these armored vehicles. In February this year, Denmark, Germany and the Netherlands announced that they would provide Ukraine with 100 German-made tanks in the coming months. Thank you for listening to the Highlights from Ukraine podcast. We're a commercial initiative of just 2 people, and we need your help to grow. Share information about the podcast, rate us in the app, subscribe to our Patreon. With your support, we're getting better. We call on you to demand from governments of your countries to impose the toughest sanctions possible on Russia and its citizens to stop their invasion of Ukraine.